Behind the scenes of 50 Shades of Grey, details never before released, you will be surprised. A row of black cars stopped in front of Studio 5, where the 50 Shades of Grey crew was preparing the first contract scene between Christian Grey and Anastasia Steele. Jamie Dornan stepped out of the car, wearing a grey sweater, his eyes slightly swollen from a long sleepless night. Dakota Johnson, then in her early 20s, had arrived early. She was practicing her lines in front of a mirror, her mouth moving slightly. "I don't know what I'm doing, Christian." It was a simple line, but that morning, the entire set was as tense as a bowstring. Director Sam Taylor Johnson wanted this scene to be painfully real, but few people knew that this was the first time Jamie Dornan and Dakota truly revealed their true feelings, beyond the script. As the cameras rolled, Dakota looked up, her eyes brimming with tears. Jamie approached, unscripted, and gently took her hand. "Are you okay?" he asked softly, the microphone still recording. That scene was kept, and in the final cut, audiences thought it was dialogue, but it was actually Jamie Dornan talking to Dakota, not Christian to Anastasia. 2. The Grey Room and the Secret of the Light. The famous Red Room, where all the limits begin, was built in an old warehouse on the outskirts of Vancouver. The crew had to repaint the walls 3 times, because the first color reflected light and made the camera look too cold, and the director wanted warm, but threatening. A lighting technician said, "We didn't use white lights. We used a mixture of 3 bulbs, pale yellow, pinkish red, and midnight blue." The result was a light that always vibrated, like a heartbeat. Many on the crew said that every time they entered that room, they felt like someone was watching. Jamie Dornan once joked, "Maybe the real Christian Grey is in here," but that night, when the crew left the set, a security guard said that the lights in the room were still on, even though the circuit breaker was off. People thought it was an electrical fault, but the next morning, on the table there was a printed copy of the non-disclosure agreement, contract, a prop, lying open, with the signature, C. Grey, signed in real pen. No one admitted to doing it. 3. Pressure and trust. Many people think 50 Shades of Grey is just a bold romance film. But behind it, there was a big psychological challenge for both main actors. Dakota once said, "In this story, there were scenes where I had to close my eyes to believe that Jamie didn't look at me the way Christian looked at Anastasia." She was afraid that the audience would generalize. Jamie, on the other hand, was afraid of the opposite, that people would only see the image of a dominant man, but not the pain of a man who didn't know how to love. One night after a long shoot, the two sat in the dressing room, silent. Dakota said quietly, "Do you ever feel like you're getting lost in the character?" Jamie replied, "Yes, but I also feel like you're the only one who pulls me out of it." The line wasn't in any of the scripts, but it was rewritten later, in the final scene of the film, when Anastasia leaves the elevator and says, "Red." Sam Taylor Johnson once said that the idea for the film's ending, a silent farewell scene, came from that moment. No one on the set knew this, because the director only wrote it down in his personal diary. 4. The "no one dared to reshoot" shot. In the original, there was a scene that was cut from the final film, Jamie Dornan, Christian, sitting alone in a dark room, flipping through each photo Anastasia took, then burning them. The scene lasted 4 minutes and 23 seconds, shot in a single take, no cuts, no background music. Jamie had to cry for real. He asked the crew to leave the set, leaving only a camera and the director. When the scene ended, he sat still for a long time. "No one dared to enter," the director said. "In that moment, I saw Christian Grey melt, and Jamie Dornan also revealed a part of his soul that he had never shown anyone. But the scene was too real, too sad, so it was cut. It never appeared on the DVD, nor in the extended version." Only a few people in the crew had seen it, and everyone was silent. To this day, the scene is secretly referred to internally as Scene 4-23, a number that loyal fans still gossip about behind the scenes. 5. The Grey No. 1 perfume. Another little-known detail, Jamie Dornan and his makeup team created a unique scent for Christian Grey. They named it Grey No. 1, a blend of leather, lavender, and cedarwood smoke. The scent was sprayed on Jamie's shirt every morning of filming, just to help him get into Christian's mind faster. Dakota says, "In this story, every time he walked past, I knew the scene was starting, even before the director called action." After filming wrapped, Jamie gave Dakota a small bottle. She smiled and said, "If I ever remember that feeling, I'll open this bottle." It was the only gift he gave her during filming. 6. Rainy night and the final scene. The last scene filmed was Anastasia stepping out of the elevator and the doors closing. It was pouring rain, not as planned. The director wanted to stop, but Jamie said, "Let the rain stay." It's their tears. Dakota stood there, shivering, but her eyes were steady. The elevator doors closed, and in the split second before the lights went out, Jamie, not Christian, whispered, "Thank you for believing in me." The camera caught the sound, though it was later muted in the film. When the crew watched the scene, no one said anything. Some cried, some smiled. The director simply said, "This is no longer a scene. This is goodbye." 7. After it all ended. When the film was released, the world talked about 50 Shades as a phenomenon. Some praised it, some criticized it, and there was a lot of controversy. But behind the scenes, there was something no one knew. Jamie Dornan didn't watch the finished film for the first 6 months after its release. He said in an interview, "In the book, I didn't dare watch it. I was afraid I would remember everything, and I didn't know who I was remembering, Christian or myself." Dakota, when asked, just smiled, "I haven't watched it again. I was afraid I would remember the scent of Grey No. 1. People thought she was joking, but a reporter once saw her carrying a small, unlabeled glass bottle in her handbag. 8. Things that were never published. There are things that weren't in any of the bonus scenes. In the first dinner scene, Jamie actually wrote a small note on the table, saying, "You are more beautiful than the light." The props kept it, but the line disappeared in the film. The scene where Christian takes off his grey tie, the director asked Jamie to choose a regular tie. He used his own wedding tie, and no one knew. The night of the final scene, the crew left, leaving Jamie alone in the grey room. He wrote on the wall with chalk, "There is no boundary between character and person, only the boundary of emotions." The next morning, the writing was gone, because someone had wiped it off before taking the souvenir photo.